Hello, welcome back to Far Horizons Gaming. My name is Ben, and today we're going to continue on with Rizia. So, last time out we went to Morella for a discussion on the future of the Meftum International Trade Zone, and voted to go ahead and let them nationalize it for some potentially not quite so altruistic reasons. So, let's see here. Looks like we got 2 exclamation points, at least 1 report over here, and a couple newspaper articles. So let's start with the report here from Salabe. Salabe anti-monarchy protests. Substantial rallies occurred in Salabe, with protesters calling for a new decentralized constitutional agreement. Their focus is on achieving self-governance as expressed through slogans and banners. Okay. And we also have one here at Port Trezon. New report highlights poor state of Rizian transit infrastructure. Experts are warning that due to a lack of investment, Rizia's railway, bus, and tram systems are becoming dangerously overloaded. If substantial modernization and expansion efforts are not undertaken soon, public transportation infrastructure risks not only frequent service disruptions, but also potential safety hazards due to the aging fleet and increased commuter demand. Yeah, that's something I want to try to look into here soon as well. Let's see here. We got 3 newspaper articles here. We got 1 from the Royal Herald. Crown assures gold stores will remain stable despite MIT's nationalization. Together with the governments of Morella and Falkland, His Majesty King Romus has voted for the nationalization of the Meftum International Trade Zone, leaving many wondering what will happen to our gold. Not to worry, a press spokesman for the Crown has told us. Our country's legendary wealth will not disappear overnight. The nationalization agreement will require intensive back and forth negotiations, and we are confident that His Majesty will not give up Rizia's gold without a fight. We at the Herald are optimistic that Rizia will be able to continue as we always have in the midst, but with the added benefit of Morella's cooperation and trust. And 2 from Geopolitica. The rise of second wave totalist maximism in China. A specter of second wave totalist maximism is sweeping across the China continent, with its aggressive stance on modernist totalitarianism gaining substantial political ground. This resurgence reflects the original maximist movement's ideals, emphasizing extreme efficiency and stark modernism as foundational societal pillars. This burgeoning ideology poses a robust challenge to conventional governance structures, potentially realigning China's internal political dynamics and its role on the global stage. As totalist maximism entrenches itself, its influence over regional alliances and international diplomacy becomes increasingly consequential, stirring unease among established democracies and neighboring powers. Alright, what is maximism? Philosophical movement rooted in modernist ideals, prominently influenced by Frederick Druck's seminal work Maximizing Human Potential. Characterized by staunch belief in science and efficiency as tools to reorganize the social order, maximism stands in stark opposition to ideologies such as realism, moralism, and miraclism. Huh. Interesting. That actually sounds kind of cool. Alright, anyway. Last article here, MITS to be nationalized despite Lesbian opposition. At the recent MITS board meeting, Lesbia was outvoted by Morella, Falkland, and Rizia, as the latter all agreed to nationalize the MITS and bring it back into Morellan hands. While Prime Minister Alvarez criticized the move, calling it a profit-snatching attack on cooperation in the region, the other countries agreed with Morella's concerns about workers' rights and environmental issues. Coolio. Alright, well, let's see what we got going here. Let's see. So, Port Trezon, RNC requests election campaign funds. Okay. Rizia National Coalition leader Daria Darava seeks financial backing from the Crown to secure the Royalist Party position against the opposition party. Our decision on funding could sway the election's outcome, shaping the political future of our kingdom. As the House of Delegates election campaign for 1954 begins, RNC promises to support the monarchy. Alright, I'll give them a little bit of funding, because that might come in handy later. I'm almost certainly going to have to sell some budget here in order to, or sell some energy to help supplement our budget. That gives us a report here. RNC acknowledges royal funding receipt. The Rizia National Coalition has formally announced the receipt of election campaign funds from the Crown. In a press release from the headquarters of Port Trezon, RNC leader Daria Darava expressed gratitude towards the King for the financial support. He emphasized that this funding is crucial for the RNC's efforts in the upcoming House of Delegates election, promising to uphold the values and stability the monarchy represents. which also gives us a newspaper article, measured support for RNC by the Crown. The Crown has chosen a path of moderation, offering balanced financial support to the Rizian National Coalition. This wise decision reflects commitment to both our political traditions and the prudent use of national resources. It symbolizes a royal gesture of goodwill without overpowering the symbolic democratic essence of the elections, in which we expect our traditions to come ahead. Cool. Alright, then I guess we're heading to Monkeys for a meeting on internal security. Hugo and Lucita rose to their feet the moment I stepped into the council chambers. My return journey from Marela had just concluded, and within hours of being back on Rizian soil, I was called for an internal security meeting. Good evening, Your Majesty. I hope you're not too tired from your trip.
Yes, thanks for coming on such short notice. I know you must have many other pressing appointments.
Nonsense. Nothing's more pressing than Rizia's security. Agreed, Your Majesty. I sat my designated seat at the head of the table. Hugo and Lucita took their respective seats. Aides placed folders full of information in front of each of us, and glasses of water were poured.
Your Majesty, the main reason we have called you here is that there's been a breakthrough in the Friendship Day bombing investigation.
He gestured for Lucita to proceed. She beamed with pride. Lucita handed me a sheet of paper from her dossier. Thanks to your willingness to further fund our intelligence capability, our team in Valen was able to locate and identify material used in the explosive device. We found a number of capacitors and resistors which are crucial for creating precise and dependable triggering mechanisms. Despite the fire damage, we were able to trace them back to Circuit Rise Systems, an electronics manufacturer in Palais. Its main contractor is the government of the Grand Duchy. Palais and Rizia have had our ups and downs, but I have a hard time believing Reinhardt would take such drastic action. I understand your reservations, but I believe this evidence warrants further investigation at the very least.
Tell me, Duchess Cesaro, what would Palais have to gain from masterminding the Friendship Day incident?
It's possible the bombing was part of a larger strategy to establish themselves as a dominant power in the region.
That would track with their aggressive pursuit of the Aureus gas field.
Yes, I doubt it was a coincidence that the bombing occurred in the middle of the gas field explorations. Sowing discord between Rizia and Valen might have been a way to create enough destabilization that we'd be entering negotiations to replace the vulnerability. Okay, well, a motive has been established, but that's still not enough to convict Palais in any international court. Yes, as I said, we need to dig deeper. In my opinion, the evidence we found more than justifies a closer investigation into the Palesian connection. What's more, we could easily delegate this investigation to already established intelligence unit Palais without spending an extra cent.
That's very frugal of you, Duchess Cesaro. However, I still think you're barking up the wrong tree.
I'm hesitant to pursue deeper investigation into Palais because of potential backlash, particularly if it is surfaced publicly.
Internationally, this move could strain our relations with not only Palais, but the region as a whole. Our primary concern should be Valen's deoccupation of Seal. The fastest way to achieve that is by confirming Vaesic involvement in the bombing.
On the other hand, Your Grace, what if it turns out Valen is innocent? If we keep pursuing them in the absence of concrete needs, Moloch may use this justification to hold on to Zeal, despite the agreement we signed. Just say the word, Your Majesty, and I'll immediately direct our efforts towards a more extensive investigation of Palais. Alright, if I can use my authority to do the exact same thing. I'm gonna do that. We'll go ahead and follow up on this lead. I've heard enough. I'm giving the royal order for your investigators to switch their focus to Palais. Excellent. I'll promptly deliver the results of the investigation to you as soon as they're available. Hugo shuffled some papers around.
Now that that's settled, I believe there are a number of other less urgent security issues up for discussion. There are indeed. Where would you like to start, Your Majesty?
Well, let's start at the top. Let's discuss threats from within the populace. Is unrest a problem at the moment?
Sadly, Your Majesty, it does appear that citizens in various parts of the kingdom have begun voicing complaints against the royal government.
So far, the protests have been isolated incidents, but were they signify a broader discontent and dissatisfaction that's been festering among the populace.
You want to volunteer us?
Fortunately, no.
Now, if both of you agree that it's serious, then it must be. Go on.
Overall, it's a multifaceted issue. Autonomy, political power, and economic equity are all intertwined in these protests. Specifically, the human rights situation in Rizia is apparently concerning to some. The welfare protesters are claiming that the Crown has yet to address their demand for increased health and education funding.
Well, we do need to do a better job of addressing their concerns.
Careful, Your Majesty, or one might confuse you for aligning with their cause. In any case, even if we weren't limited by financial constraints, throwing money around doesn't guarantee a favourable outcome.
At the very least, I'm happy to say there are no signs of anti-monarchist turmoil within our noble houses.
Thank God, if the nobles begin backing irate commoners, it'll be 1926 all over again.
As to the nature of this unrest, I'm still gathering information on the ground. I don't have specific examples at this time.
If escalation occurs, we'll require a strategic approach, open dialogue, and compromise. And what's happening with our border security?
There isn't much to report, but it's worth mentioning that there's been a surge of British migrants attempting to cross the Gulf of Mordia.
Taking advantage of Rizia's open borders, perhaps we should have agreed on Mr. Smolak's bluish ban after all.
Why now? Does it relate to Valen's anti-Bluish campaign?
Yes, we believe so. While we haven't observed a significant push, we know they're conducting covert operations to suppress Bluish communities within their borders.
Yeah, Valen's testing us. Smolak knows any sudden increase in migration will put a strain on our resources.
That's certainly a possibility. However, we mustn't assume anything. It could just be a coincidence.
Speaking of which, just this morning, one of our patrol vessels intercepted an overcrowded Bluish migrant ship crossing the Gulf. And they were lucky we did. Our investigation team determined that had they stayed out any longer, the ship would have been at risk of sinking. The 500 plus asylum seekers are currently being processed at one of our migrant facilities.
And it's heartbreaking to think of those who never make it to safety.
All the more reason to improve the situation for all migrants. Having covered that, I believe I've touched upon all the key aspects of this issue.
Alright, well, I expect you have some news for me regarding Isa.
Your Majesty, the situation in Isa remains fraught with challenges. Your decision to elevate the status of the Vasic population has certainly won the Crown's supporters in Little Rockrovitz. Fortunately, there is some little to curb tensions. In fact, it's emboldened migrants to openly defy the police. My son has been overwhelmed trying to restore order. His men are stretched to their limit.
Lucita straightened in her seat, seemingly eager to intervene.
Unfortunately, Your Grace, I believe your son is part of the problem. With the Duke's public support of Su Omnia, the group has become ever bolder. We're seeing increased violence, and there have been reports of clashes in the streets.
Well, it appears that my cousin is incapable of handling the situation himself.
My son's ability to govern is without question. It is the lack of resources that hinders him. Something must be done about this.
The provincial police in Brainus have offered their cooperation. However, given their soft stance on foreign or committed crimes in Salabay and Gelée, we can't count on them enforcing our policies.
Rico's hardline stance isn't working. Perhaps a softer approach is called for.
I wouldn't risk it, not with Isa's current lack of order. I believe we should honor the Duke's request for reinforcements from the Central Police without placing them under his direct jurisdiction.
Hugo fixed her with a stare.
And whose jurisdiction should they be under? Yours, I suppose.
Well, yes. Allowing my department to take over law enforcement will leave the Duke free to focus on his other governing duties.
I like that idea. Perhaps this time a grown-up took the reins over there.
It is that attitude that is impeding my son's ability to reign. We must place more trust in his abilities.
Well, the Central Police are needed to quell the unrest, but should operate independently from local authorities. Therefore, I'll place them under Lucita's command.
My son is trying to maintain order, Nita, denying him this power.
Thank you for your confidence, Your Majesty. Rest assured their allegiance will be to the crown, not any faction.
Well, there's nothing left to discuss, then let's adjourn. Hugo rose from his seat and stretched his arms back.
Just in time. My joints are starting to stiffen.
After saying their goodbyes, Hugo and Lucita took their leave. I checked my watch. We had concluded the briefing in a timely manner. The weight of our internal security discussion still lingered in the air as I stood alone in the room. With a somber nod to the vacant chairs, I departed, ready to face the responsibilities that lay beyond the meeting room. Coolio. Alright. Let's see here. We got a report, a couple news articles, and 2 more exclamation points. So, let's start here. From Iza, RPP turns Iza into Sea of Yellow. Thousands of yellow flags and people wearing yellow clothes filled the streets of Iza over the past week, culminating in a rally featuring speech by Manu Saison and an art performance of the Ghosts of Democracy, the new mascot for the RPP's electoral campaign. With this unique display of force, RPP has set itself up for a strong and recognizable campaign. Interesting. And from Port Jazon, RNC kicks off election campaign. With a large rally on Taurus Square, the RNC officially kicked off their election campaign for the upcoming House of Delegates elections. Tens of thousands of supporters gathered, waving Rizian and House Taurus flags, chanting their support for the King's Party. Leader of the RNC and Speaker of the HOD, Daria Durava, delivered a rousing speech, with a short appearance by Hugo Taurus himself, sending the crowd wild. Cool. That looks like we just have 1 exclamation point. I could have sworn there were 2. Either way, we still got 3 news articles here. So, first up from the Royal Herald. Royal Herald officially endorses Rizia National Coalition in provincial elections. Dear Royal Herald readers, we live in tumultuous times. It is only by the grace of the blessed Rizian monarchy that we are able to muddle through. And so, this year, it is more important than ever that the Rizia National Coalition take the helm in your provincial councils and the House of Delegates. Only the RNC can be counted on to protect the values and traditions we hold dear, to safeguard the interests of hardworking landowners and the commoners who depend on them. The party's vision aligns seamlessly with the enduring legacy of the Rubaz dynasty, ensuring that the bedrock of our society remains firm amidst the storms of change. The world around us may be shifting, but the RNC stands as a beacon of constancy and resilience. Their leadership will not only preserve the sanctity of the monarchy, but also propel our kingdom to greater heights. It is, therefore, with utmost conviction that the Royal Herald endorses the Rizia National Coalition for this year's provincial elections and the House of Delegates. Stand with them, stand with tradition, stand with Rizia. Alright, then we got 2 here from Geopolitico. Rumburg coming south? Our foreign policy analysts who are reviewing the recent aggressive military and diplomatic developments of Rumburg have come to the conclusion that it is highly likely that Rumburg will keep trying to push further south, threatening the territories of Sorland, Valen, and possibly Agnolia. The annexation of Dome many decades ago was just the beginning. Rumburg seems beyond a quest to secure all strategic resources in East Marcopa. And tragedy strikes as migrant ship capsizes in Gulf of Mordia. In a heart-wrenching incident, a British migrant ship tragically capsized in the treacherous waters of the Gulf of Mordia. This devastating event resulted in numerous casualties, while a fortunate few were rescued from the perilous sea. As the world mourns this catastrophic loss of life, questions arise surrounding the root causes of such desperate migrations. Many are pointing the fingers at the oppressive policies of Valen, the country of origin for these migrants, which have led to an alarming surge in immigration as minority communities seek refuge from persecution. This tragic incident serves as a stark reminder of the dire consequences that arise from systematic oppression, leaving nations grappling with the moral imperative to address the plight of those seeking a better life. Indeed. Alright, let's see here. So, I think I'm going to go ahead and sell a little bit of energy here so we can try to make some moves. Let's see here. Where are you? Trade. Let's see here. So, a large sale would spend all our energy, gives +3 budget, but -3 authority, which I don't like that. And medium would be -4 energy, but +2 budget. -2 energy, +1 budget. Okay, let's go and do a medium global energy sale. There we go. That'll give us a little extra money just in case we need it later on. Cool. And then, yeah, we'll see how everything goes towards the end of the churn. Hopefully I'll at least have enough money to invest in something, but we'll see. Got 2 newspaper articles here, which I'm going to guess are the same things that they always are when I sell energy. Yeah, energy export set to increase. And Rizia to become an energy exporter. Yeah, cool. Alright. Let's see. Well, probably got enough time to go ahead and do this. Let's head back to Port Drazon for an evening at the palace. On the palace balcony, I sought refuge from the relentless affairs of the state. The grandeur of the night sky spread before me, stars punctuating the obsidian expanse like celestial jewels. As the city's distant lights shimmered, a testament to life continuing beyond the palace walls. And the city's lights. Sorry. Amidst this tranquil backdrop, I found a brief respite from the responsibilities that weighed on my shoulders. It was during this peaceful interlude that Lucita approached. Her presence on the balcony was a reminder that, as a monarch, even moments of solitude could be fleeting. The only question was whether she was here for an urgent matter or something else.
Good evening, Your Majesty.
Lucita, to what do I owe this pleasure?
And this pleasure happens to be in the information you requested about your father's death.
Ooh, fantastic. Business only, it seemed. Really? In that case, let's hear it.
Let me start by saying that I've made significant progress into who may be responsible.
So you do suspect foul play?
Unfortunately, yes. There are several individuals I find highly suspicious.
I'm afraid to ask, but who? Lucita discreetly glanced around, as if making sure there was no one else with us.
My initial list comprised 5 individuals: Captain Gordian, Grand Wiseman Ignatius, your butler, your uncle, and your mother.
You're conveniently forgetting yourself.
You wouldn't have asked me to investigate if you thought I was guilty.
Fair enough. Let's hear what you've uncovered.
With whom should I begin?
Let's just start with Pablo. He's the one who brought the whole thing up, so I doubt it's him.
As you know, it is my duty to explore every possibility. During the lead-up to Valero's death, there was a significant period when he couldn't be accounted for.
That sounds very un-Pablo.
I'm sure. But for an individual in Pablo's position to be away for such a prolonged period raised questions. He possesses knowledge of the palace's internal workings, which rendered him a significant figure in my investigation.
She paused.
Further investigation, however, revealed that Pablo had a solid alibi. His whereabouts during that time can be completely accounted for.
There's a note of uncertainty in her voice. Well, what aren't you telling me?
Well, Your Majesty, perhaps you're better off not knowing where your butler was that night.
Saying that's only made me more curious. She shook her head ruefully.
Very well, though this has absolutely no bearing on the murder case. After extensive interviews with palace staff, it was determined that Pablo was in the wine cellar that entire time. The scuttlebutt has it that he was having a secret rendezvous.
In the wine cellar? With whom was he engaged in this rendezvous?
A delivery person from Contuava Vineyards who was dropping off casks of wine.
Guess I'll go with that one, even though I know that's probably not correct. Her heedless and disrespectful action should be conveyed to the Contuavos.
Not her.
He. She peered at me closely, trying to gauge my reaction to the news. As long as he didn't kill my father, I don't care what he was doing that night.
I have to confess, I had a feeling about Pablo since our trip to Kalus. I'm not surprised at all. That said, we were unable to turn up any conclusive evidence of what he and the courier were doing in the cellar. It could be there's a perfectly innocuous reason they were down there, and the staff we talked to are spreading rumors out of boredom or spite. But if we catch him in a similar act again, you'll be notified right away.
As long as it doesn't interfere with his duties, I don't see an issue. Let's stay focused on the task at hand, please.
You're right. Pablo's love life or lack thereof is not relevant. In any case, Pablo is innocent, of murdering His Majesty King Valero at least.
Let's just start with the top now. Tell me about my uncle. Why him?
Of all the individuals I've been looking into, your Uncle Hugo stands out the most. After supper on the night Valero died, His Grace accompanied the king to his chambers. Your golden guardsman claims not to remember what they were talking about, but the maid who was on duty at the time says she overheard snatches of an argument.
An argument? About what?
Apparently the king shouted he is not yet ready.
She shrugged.
Which doesn't clear anything up.
Are you saying Titus was lying?
Hard to say. He may have thought it inappropriate to listen on the royal family's conversations. Or there's something about the content of this argument that he wants to hide.
Dinner was hours before the time of death. How could Hugo have killed him?
Could have slipped him a slow-acting poison, either on the stairs or while escorting the king into his chambers. Captain Gordian claims to have witnessed no such thing, but a lot gets by him, it seems.
Enough about the maid. Is there any other reason to suspect Hugo?
Well, the counselor's aides I questioned admitted to sensing mistrust between the two brothers. But as you well know, there's almost nobody King Valero trusted by then.
This is all too vague. I want cold hard facts.
If we keep pursuing this lead, we will get them. Given the severity of accusing the Grand Vizier of murder, I wanted to inform you first before proceeding.
Your rights come to me. However, we need cold hard facts before jumping to conclusions. Tell me all about the details of my mother's whereabouts on the night my father passed.
Your Majesty, our investigative efforts have unveiled a rather unexpected revelation. The Queen Mother was at dinner that night. Later, as verified by Titus Gordian, she opened the door to her father's chambers and immediately alerted the Golden Guard that he was unconscious. In between, however, Madame Estella was not in the palace at all.
Not in the palace? Well, if she wasn't here, then where was she?
This may come as a shock, but it turns out she was attending a clandestine religious service just outside the capital. A Dasnerist service.
Dasnerist? Are you absolutely sure?
We managed to find credible eyewitnesses at the Dasnerist Arch Sanctuary that night who can verify it.
An eyewitness? What led you to find that out?
The investigation into her whereabouts began when Dasnerist literature was found hidden in a bedchamber during a secret search. I didn't think much of it till I stumbled across the name and address of a Dasnerist sanctuary handwritten on the inside cover of one such book. My curiosity piqued, I thoroughly investigated the events of that night by gathering records, logs, cross-referencing attendance lists, and witness accounts to solve the puzzle. Needless to say, this proves your mother had an alibi and had nothing to do with your father's death.
Just nerdy aside, it's a relief to hear she's no longer a suspect. Let's hear why you suspect Titus.
Yes, of course.
She took a quick look around before proceeding.
On the night of King Valero's death, Captain Gordian was charged with guarding his chambers.
He often takes it upon himself to personally oversee the king's security.
Yes, he stuck to his majesty like glue, much as he currently sticks to you. But when I questioned the other Golden Guardsmen, one of them admitted that Captain Gordian left his post that night. The guardsmen assumed Titus's duties for half an hour. The captain could have gone anywhere during that time.
He wasn't at his post? That's not like Titus at all.
Yes, which raises questions about his loyalty and the circumstances surrounding the king's demise. Your guardsman's behavior was suspicious, to say the least.
This news is indeed troubling. I've always taken Titus to be a loyal protector.
I understand your reservations, but my duty is to uncover the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it may be.
Alright, well, I want to hear what you found out on the Grand Wiseman.
Your Majesty, multiple sources have confirmed to me that the Grand Wiseman visited the king's chambers the night of his death. In fact, at that time, he was consulting privately with the king on a near-nightly basis. According to the Grand Wiseman himself, the letter turned towards God when he sensed that the end of his life was coming.
My father turned towards God and away from everyone else.
It's not surprising. God forgives where humans don't. What's interesting is that aside from those meetings, witnesses describe your father's behavior as no more religious than usual. He was even skipping services some weeks.
Are you implying the two of them were planning something?
I don't know, but the inconsistency sticks out to me. I haven't been able to establish a motive of the Grand Wiseman, but the means were there.
Alright, well, here's the next steps for your investigation. Lucita leaned forward, listening eagerly. Hugo is obviously our primary suspect, so focus your investigation on him.
Consider it already done.
Lucita gave a slight bow.
Investigation aside, I would humbly remind you of that date you owe me.
I still haven't found a setting befitting the beauty and majesty of the Duchess of House Azaro.
Leave that to me.
She flashed a suggestive smile as she left the chambers. Now alone, my thoughts once again returned to the investigation. I assured myself that investigating Hugo was the right course of action. I'm not sure about that, but he seems to be the one with the most promising lead so far. But I don't know, Titus leaving his post right before the king died does seem suspicious as hell too. I don't know. I took no pleasure in suspecting a member of my own family, but the evidence had been laid out. And if my suspicions turned out to be true, it begged the question, who in my inner circle could I trust? Awesome. Alright, well, that is a nice cryptic note to go ahead and end things on today. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you all next time.